Go ahead and state your name.
I'm Cecil Green. I served in the United States Army from 1984 to 1993.
What made you want to join the Army?
My family has a long history of serving in the Army, from my grandpa to my dad, several of my uncles, so it was just natural that I would want to join the Army.
How was basic training?
When I started basic training, I weighed 140 pounds, so some of the physical training was very difficult for me. I had a hard time with sit-ups, failed a few of my PT tests, but through hard work, I was able to accomplish what I needed to graduate out of basic training. So very physically demanding, but not impossible.
What did you think when you were ordered to go to Panama?
When I was deployed to Panama, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was providing support and just happened to be the soldier on call at that particular time of the month. And so I was deployed to Panama to support the battalion that was going down there. I was married at the time. My wife was expecting a child, so it was mixed emotions. I was excited about being deployed, but at the same time, I was also concerned about my wife having a child while I wasn't there.
What was it like in Panama?
Panama was pretty upset at the time, so they had already declared war, and we were sent in there in pretty much a hot zone. So we landed, jumped on an armed convoy, headed to one of our bases, and basically I rotated from one end of the base or one end of the country to the other, supporting our troops as we did convoys back and forth, supporting equipment and moving equipment. So,
what was your job description?
technically, my job description was a tow, drag, and missile repairman. I worked on a Bradley light armor vehicle, which included a 50 cal and a tow dragon missile system on it. I supported all the optics and the missile system itself. So that was it, basically.
What did you think when they told you were going to Saudi Arabia?
I was actually deployed in Germany at the time, so providing support for a battalion over there. Our battalion was selected to be the 3rd battalion for the Big Red One as we were deployed to Saudi Arabia. We got the word. We spent the next 4 months preparing our equipment, loading it up on trains, getting it shipped to the port so it could be shipped over to Saudi Arabia. After we had all of our equipment shipped out, we flew over to Saudi Arabia and ended up staying in some tents for about 4 months, doing individual training and until our equipment arrived. So it took about 4 months for that to happen. So my feelings were, again, I was excited to go, but I was worried about my wife and my daughter at the time because they were stationed in Germany.
What did you do for the 4 months while you were waiting?
We did personal training. We worked on our gas masks, our rifles, anything that related to protecting ourselves while we were out in the field. We did a lot of training based on that.
What was the feeling when you were told you weren't going into Baghdad?
Well, it was mixed because we had deployed over there to do exactly that. So when we transitioned from moving from Saudi Arabia into Baghdad, our whole mission was to get to Baghdad as quickly as we can. We didn't meet a lot of opposition, so we were able to cover that ground in about 2 days. So in 2 days, we were sitting outside of Baghdad. The politicians and the commanders were working on stopping the conflict or resolving the conflict. So at that particular time, we were commanded to take and go into Kuwait and do a little bit of work in Kuwait. We ended up coming out of Kuwait a couple days later and ended up sitting in the desert for a couple weeks while they decided whether or not we needed to go to Baghdad, in which ultimately we never did.
What did you do in between the end of Desert Storm and the end of your time in the military?
So I was deployed back to Germany, where I was reunited with my family. We then, a couple months later, deployed back to Texas, Fort Bliss, Texas, where I supported a local park on the base and helped the veterans as they transitioned in and out of the conflict area, giving them some good R&R time and taking care of the park there at the base.
What did the military teach you?
The military taught me a lot. It taught me discipline, integrity, honesty, how to work as a team, how to be a leader, how to react under pressure. All these life skills have benefited me over the course of my life.
Would you have done anything different?
Looking back, I've often thought about, would things been different if I had stayed in and retired from the Army? But after the breakup of my first marriage, and I left the military to spend time with my daughter, so I wouldn't grow apart from her. She was a young kid at that time, and that's when I met my other wife, my current wife, and we also had 2 kids. So if I had stayed in, maybe none of that would have happened. So looking back, I probably wouldn't change anything.
Do you think any of the branches have it better than the Army?
First of all the services are unique, and they offer opportunities for anybody joining the services. So those life skills are important. Depending on what your goals are, what your vocation you select, they all offer a good experience, I think, and will benefit anybody. That being said, I was in the Army. I was stationed a lot of the times right beside an Air Force base, and I know the Air Force base was much better. They had better facilities, better gyms, better nightclubs, better everything as it related to the Army. So if I had to, one thing I would maybe do differently would be join the Air Force.
When were you most frightened?
There were several times, and both of them were during the Desert Storm. I was actually and we were sitting on the border waiting to go into Iraq, and I was working on a Bradley system. I was down inside the vehicle. I couldn't really see anybody or anything around me. And then there was a missile battalion that had come in behind us, and I didn't know they were there. And they went ahead and started firing missiles over the top of my head in the vehicle that I was in, and that scared me pretty good. And then the other time was when we drove almost into Baghdad. We all of a sudden, we had been moving really quickly, as I mentioned, and then we stopped. And then what had actually happened is we had driven into a minefield. So we had to back out of that minefield for a couple miles to get a different route around them, the mines, and that was a pretty scary incident also.
Did the Army change the way you think?
I believe so. It takes training to be able to react under pressure. A lot of people can't handle stressful situations. Being able to take multiple pieces of information, analyze it, and make quick decisions is a great skill to have. So.
Did you miss your family after you left for basic?
I'm sure I missed my mom and dad, my brothers and sisters, but at the time I remember, as I mentioned, I left just 12 days after high school, so I was already joined, already committed, and I was pretty excited about leaving for the Army.
What was the did the Army change how you thought about the Army? Like, did you have a different perception going in than when you were coming out?
Not really. I was nervous going in. I didn't know what to expect. I knew I was going to be yelled at and screamed at, and all of that did happen. But it was all in an effort to move me in the direction and learn those life skills I talked about. being able to follow commands and accomplish what the Army wants you to accomplish, you have to be focused, and the way they focus you through basic training is usually through yelling. So it was a different time. Once you get through basic training and advanced training and you move on to your permanent station, everything settled down like I thought it would, and so it didn't really change my perception of what the Army would be like.
What was the funniest thing that happened while you were in the Army?
Well, there's many things, but one that sticks out in particular is when I was slotted to be deployed to Germany. So the Army, in all its wisdom, wants you to take a basic German class before you go over there, so you can speak with the local Germans. So I took this class, and then I was deployed to Germany, and to tell you the truth, I couldn't speak a lick of German. So luckily for me, a lot of the Germans could speak broken English, and I was able to have conversations through broken English, which was quite funny sometimes.
What would you tell anyone who wants to join the Army?
I would tell anybody wanting to join the Army to think about joining the Air Force. As I mentioned, they have a lot better facilities, and so your quality of life will go up when you're off. But seriously, anybody wanting to join the military or the armed forces should do it. It's a great opportunity. It's a great way to learn some valuable life skills from some very good people. I have no regrets of joining the Army, and if you are considering joining the service, God bless you.
Thank you for letting me interview you.
All right, no problem. Thank you.